Thank you for tuning into the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, we're continuing our 2026 NFL Draft prospect coverage with a focus on the defensive tackles. This group certainly has day one talent to discuss that should contribute immediately wherever they are drafted. The Detroit Lions have their starters now in Alim, McNeill, and Tyleik Williams, but they may be looking to add more depth to this group. We'll rank and preview the class next. Now here's your Sports Peninsula team.
And welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Jasinski-Drew, joined by Coach Andy Scheel, talking sports, talking NFL draft today, talking about the defensive tackle position in this upcoming NFL draft. And, Coach, let's talk about the Lions' perspective on this. I mentioned in the intro, McNeill and Williams are back in starters, but they lost Reeder and they lost a couple others. What are your thoughts on this spot?
Well, clear the loss. Roy Lopez isn't returning. There's some opportunity there. They also have a couple guys. Josh Pascal's gone. Levin Ruzwike is going to be back. It appears as such, at least. There's some fluidity here with this position group with the Lions. It's always a work in progress. Miles Adams was just re-signed. Is a depth piece and a rotational piece. Don't be so surprised either with the 17th pick if it's not a player that is edge defensive tackle like, and that type of player. We've previewed a couple of them when we were talking about the edge position. So there's a couple of different routes they could go there. Is this a group that we're talking about here that we could draw from? Of course it could be. Do I think it's in the 17 to 50 range? I would be surprised because we have spent some capital here most recently with Tyleik Williams, as you had mentioned. And we do have some backfilling to do too with the Broderick Martin picks and the Josh Pascal picks that did not bring much to the table ultimately. And Levy really has given us 1 year. So, we've got some backfilling to do and some work to do here, Drew.
Yeah, let's talk about the top 20 guys right now, Coach. I'm going to bring them up right now. Let's run them down.
We've got Nick Barrett from South Carolina in at 20. At 19 is Devin Eastern out of Minnesota. At 18 is Xavion Harris out of Ole Miss. At 17 is Albert Regis out of Texas A&M. 16 is Zane Durant from Penn State. 15, Skylar Gill Howard out of Texas Tech. 14, Rayshawn Benny out of Michigan, one of our dark horses. We'll be talking a little bit more in depth about Rayshawn. At 13, DeMonte Caphart out of Clemson. At 12, Caleb Proctor, brother of Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle from Alabama. This is a defensive tackle from Southeast Louisiana. Trip up on those words there a little bit. He's in at 12. At 11, Tim Keenan III out of the University of Alabama. Into our top 10, Chris McClellan, another one of our dark horses, a very good prospect. Drew, you're going to be featuring him in a little bit. Yeah. At 9, Dante Corleone, big Dante Corleone out of Cincinnati, another dark horse we'll be speaking of here very shortly. At 8, is Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma. At 7, Daryl Jackson Jr. out of Florida State, another dark horse. Drew, you'll be taking us in on that one. And at 6 is Dominique Orange out of Iowa State. Our top 5, Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech. We'll be featuring him here in just a few minutes. Kristen Miller out of Georgia. And at 4, a Detroit area product. At 3, Caleb Banks from Florida. And at 2, Caden McDonald from Ohio State, and our number 1 interior defensive lineman on the big board this year, Drew, is Peter Woods out of Clemson.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce him shortly here. I love the list. And like you said, we're going to talk about 4 other dark horse candidates. This is an interesting group, and I'll get into that more as we go. But there's a lot. This top 20 is full of a lot of talent, but there's some issues and question marks with some injury concerns. But that'll come out later. But I'm going to jump into right now. Peter Woods, our number 1 prospect on the board at defensive tackle from Clemson. He's 6'3", 310 pounds. He's a junior. He does hail from Alabaster, Alabama. He won 4 state championships in high school in Thompson, Alabama. That's impressive. He was a Max Preps High School All-American. He ran a 4.75 40. He put up 500 pounds in the bench and he can put up 700 pounds in squat. That's incredible strength. 2023 he was a freshman All-American. Last year an All-American and All-ACC defensive tackle. He has over 1,100 reps at the 3 and 5 techniques at the tackle position. He has started 24 of 35 games that he's played for Clemson. And in his career, he's had 84 tackles, 14 and a half tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 40 hurries, 8 quarterback hits in 35 games. Coach Peter Woods knows how to get to the quarterback.
He does. He's an interior pass rusher and a backfield disruptor. And, you can look at these, 84 tackles, 14 and a half tackles for loss. He's made some plays in the backfield during his time with the Clemson Tigers. We were referring to the type of positional defensive lineman that could technically be a de facto edge, especially the way the Lions cover that, sometimes with a linebacker. This is that type of player. Peter Woods is that type. He can line up at the 3 technique, which is basically between the guard and tackle. All right, maybe just shaded, eye-to-eye influence with the guard. And he can move himself out towards that tackle and eventually align outside eye leverage with the offensive tackle, which preliminarily will make him basically a defensive end. So Peter Woods can bring these things to the table. He has great athleticism. That's evident in the film that you can watch. You can just kind of see how he triggers and moves his body with strength, balance, and agility. That athleticism just shines through on the film. He offers that, like I said, that scheme and alignment versatility. He can be a true anchor 3 technique defensive tackle, your true blue defensive tackle, Warren Sapp type, or he can kind of edge out and help you with the perimeter a little bit. He cleans up the backside. He's a hustle player. He's a flow player, and he chases things like an edge or a linebacker. So I mean that's gonna help when you run away from him as well. So he's a full go motor, no plays off, hard running motor, big time competitor, heavy handed puncher. You got to be able to use your hands as a defensive lineman, Drew. It's almost the number one thing you've got to be able to do. And he has that stone-handed punch that you want to see out of a high-end defensive lineman. Great burst off the snap. Agile well beyond a 300-plus pound guy. I mean, he moves his feet like he's 250 to 270. He does not move his feet like he's 310 pounds. And that was evident in the combine, too. You can see that some of his drill work, but a lot of it shows up on film too. He plays with a plan. He uses his hands. He's got a pass rush plan. He's definitely got maneuvers and moves that he likes to go to. Very advanced player for a 21-year-old. He does not look like he looks like a guy that is just so teched up and tooled as a defensive lineman, a true master of his craft, and a guy that looks like he is ready for the pros. Drew Peter Woods definitely is ready for this stage.
Yeah, and subsequently, Lions fans, I would almost guarantee he will not be there at 17 come draft day. He's got too much upside going, and like you said, Coach, the strengths he brings to the table, he's ready to go now. He's got too much versatility. I can't see a Peter Woods slipping that far. Things can happen, I know, but I highly doubt it. But he does have some stuff he's got to work on, Coach. So let's talk about that.
Well, oftentimes he's an interior pass rusher with the plan of an outside pass rusher. You can just kind of see where it just stalls out. It runs out of room and just kind of gets smothered. And, that it'll stall out a little bit. It's the same kind of technical refinement that he needs to make when it comes to double teams. He can get kind of rode out of there and washed out of there, and that's doom for you. I mean, that's you can't stop anybody if you've got defensive tackles getting rolled downfield. So those are things that have to get cleaned up, and because they're going to happen to him at the NFL level, it's going to be seen. He's really just kind of a modest producer statistically in 2025. But, as a defensive coach, Drew, I think some of the finest defenses, you don't have a lot of statistics coming from your interior defensive linemen. They're gap plugging, they're protecting linebackers, they're condensing and reducing gaps, destroying blocking schemes. They're making plays, just not making tackles and tackles for loss and sacks all the time as interior defensive linemen. So to call that a true ding, that there probably should be a little bit more investigation there. But he did not. He made more plays in 24 and 23. He gets over aggressive. Like I said, that motor runs so hard, and he does have just great burst. He can lose kind of body control sometimes, and that's when you lose your feet, and you don't play football very good from the turf. You need to be on your feet to play this game. So the part that I think it just seems like he gets a little too much depth, that burst comes back to haunt him sometimes, because his gap integrity, he would kind of get upfield. He would maybe reduce too much and just kind of almost crash and kind of abandon the defense sometimes. That's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. Some of the plays behind him. So I may be wrong. Maybe it was a stunt called and it was bad on the coach, but it just seems like his gap integrity at times could be a work in progress, which means he'll come off the field at times. He needs to refine his hand punch and strike. I mean, he's great. He's got heavy hands, but these are NFL offensive linemen that can combat that stuff. That's going to have to be a refinement of his and a calling card, is to be able to maintain that leverage with his hands. He's not a perfect run anchor. You can see that he's a very stout, strong kid right from the kneel here as he's getting up against Georgia. He's got a really kind of athletic frame for 6'3", 310, but it's not real thick in the lower half. He needs to, but he's going to have to play. This is a starting caliber defensive lineman or a high volume rotational defensive lineman year one. And he's got refinements to make in his game for sure, Drew. But he's going to have to do them on the fly because he's going to play.
Yeah. You're not taking Peter Woods to percolate on the sidelines and learn. He's gonna learn, but he's gonna learn on the field. And I agree with you, Coach. Yeah, there'll be some bumps in the road, specifically around his run anchor, and like you said, on film you can see it. But at the same time, I just there's so much to like about Peter Woods. Yeah, he'd be awesome in Detroit. I don't see him being there. Hypothetically, Coach, if Peter Woods is there, how if you're Brad Holmes, how seriously would you consider him at that point?
I would. I mean, I would. That defensive line, edge and interior, is always seemingly a work in progress. The Lions' defensive line is a work in progress. Mm-hmm. It is not what they want it to be yet. So they do have to consider a player like this that could also be developed to be a kind of a hard setting edge, anchor edge type of player. You certainly could. I don't think it's number one on their list, obviously, but Peter Woods' name has been mentioned before, and I would be thrilled. Would be a heck of a defensive line prospect for the Lions.
Yeah, he's a good one. It's going to be interesting to see where he does go. Let's talk about our number 2 prospect, Coach.
That's Caden McDonald, who's more of a true interior guy, a big defensive tackle out of The Ohio State University, 6'2", 326-pound junior. A very similar prototype to a guy that we drafted last year in Tyleik Williams. Comes from the state of Georgia. He's on the 2024 national championship team. He was a rotational part of that team. This year was his big year, Drew. He was a 2025 All-American, and he also was 2025 All-Big Ten. He was the B1G Defensive Lineman of the Year this past season. So he put together a big campaign in 2025. Played in 37 games and started 14 for the Buckeyes during his career there. So he played a lot of rotational football for Ohio State. But when you play at a place like that is so perennially stacked with talent, that's going to happen a little bit earlier on in his career, and he is a junior declaring. So that stands for that. 650 plus reps truly on the interior, a 0-4 technique. So he doesn't get too much further than maybe the inside eye of the offensive tackle, Drew. He's a true inside guy. 85 career tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 15 hurries, 3 PDs, 2 forced fumbles in 37 games. He's an inside guy. You know, those stats aren't going to be the juiciest. What he brings to the table is what you're kind of seeing right there. You're seeing him eat some space and really take care of a gap all by his lonesome. So that's what Caden McDonald brings to the game, a true blue interior defensive lineman.
Yeah, and you hit it when we were discussing Peter Woods. D tackles aren't going to have the statistics necessarily. There's obviously exceptions, but at the same time, it's so important to be that gap plugger. I mean, force that back to bounce outside, force that quarterback to bounce outside and try to find option B or C, and then you've got your linebackers or safeties, corners coming to clean up. They're going to get the tackle, maybe they'll get the TFL, but you did, by you doing your job as a D tackle in the middle, forced that play outside and made it happen. It doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but it's critical. And that's Caden McDonald's very, very good at that, as that picture illustrates right there. Well, so what do we like about him? Well, he's an elite. He has an elite run anchor. He's a big guy. And that's an NFL body right there as a D tackle. He is ready to go. He's been a guard's worst nightmare for the Buckeyes. He's trouble. He's a block destroyer. He's a very good football player. Natural frame for a nose tackle. Like when coach said he can go from the 0-4 technique. When you're the 0 technique, you're right over that center. And Caden McDaniel has the physicality and mass to do so. So while he is he is an inside player. He does have a little versatility there, where he can be that 0 technique in a 3-4. He could be a 4 technique in a 4-3. That is some versatility. Not everyone can do that, but of course he can't bounce to the edge, so we know that. But he's very capable at operating along the line of scrimmage and stunts and blitzes. He's got heavy hands, got a big football punch. Coach talked about that with Peter Woods, how important that is for a D tackle, for a defensive lineman. They have really good hands. Caden McDonald's got him, and he can beat and get off blocks. I wouldn't say at will, but he's very good at it. He has the feet and athleticism to counter and recover. He blends technique and athleticism and physicality in his profile. So he's not a one-trick guy here. He can do a lot of things, and he's not a jack of all trades, master of none. He's got a really good profile for himself as a defensive tackle. And coach, there's a lot to like about Caden McDonald.
Yeah, and essentially why he only has 14 starts at the college level is because of the guy that's playing in the Honolulu Blue and Silver, Tyleik Williams, because essentially Caden McDonald is a prototype of Tyleik Williams. He brings almost everything to the table that Tyleik Williams is Caden McDonald. Very, very similar players. True blue interior guys. You know, these are guys that are nose tackles that can play defensive tackle and edge out. Just probably like to the inside, just to the interior of a defensive or an offensive tackle, which still is leveraged as a defensive tackle. If you're doing a 50 scheme or a certain type of shade, he can fit there out that way. But you want Caden McDonald on the inside. He possesses a stronger run anchor than Peter Woods. It certainly is. Woods may have a little bit more of a dynamic when it comes to moving his feet and getting around some different things and being able to be a little bit more perimeter conscious than Caden McDonald. But this is a great prospect when it comes to needing an true interior anchor.
Yeah, I mean, what separates, like you mentioned it, Woods from McDonald's. Woods got a little quicker feet, has that pass rush repertoire in his tool belt. Caden McDonald, not so much. He's a low volume pass rusher. His pass rush stalls out more times than not. That's not really his game, and he can get guilty of just locking up at times too. So That's going to have to get worked on at the NFL level for sure. That's not going to be good enough in the NFL level, especially when Caden McDonald has a draft grade of a day one prospect, likely goes day one, but could slip to day two. It's possible. I mean, it depends on the needs of the teams, but his talent level says day one, in my view. But certainly, like I said, stranger things have happened. He has a tendency to play with a poor pad level and get washed out and walled down at times. So again, all technique, it's got to be worked on at the pro level to take that next step up. He's got to refine his ability to counter blocks and make it his calling card. Really, he's got to be able to do that, and he's got to be able to have counter moves at the point of attack, at the line of scrimmage, to make sure he's able to keep himself freed up to make more plays. Offers very little outside of a bull rush. We've talked about that. So those are his limitations for Caden McDonald. He's more of a gap plugger type at this point, and he does need to develop into a 3-4 nose tackle. He's not there yet as a pass player, but he certainly has the tools to do that, but he's going to have to be coached up a little bit there. But Coach, overall, your thoughts on Caden McDonald in terms of where he might go in this draft?
Yeah, if his floor is a gap plugger and a guy that plays very well against the run, he's going to have a place in this league for 5+ years. If he can evolve a little bit from just being a crasher and a bull rusher and a stall out in the pass rush game, if he can actually become a pocket pusher or a stunt guy, along with those really strong run tools, this is a guy that is a high caliber starting defensive tackle. So Caden McDonald has some things to work on. He played in a professionally coached scheme under Matt Patricia at Ohio State this past season. He has seen what it looks like when it comes to needing to bring what you need to bring to the table to do that. Ultimately, what are his true skill sets? I know Tyleik Williams had some growing pains this past season. He did. He, in effect, stalled out a little bit and kind of was just plugging gaps. Can Caden McDonald avoid that? Or is it going to be part of his growth curve? And which is, like I said, he can have a fine rookie year still and be more towards that floor. But the floor, just how high is Caden McDonald's ceiling? That's what I guess I would ask.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's what GMs are going to have to figure out and understand. But so it's hard to gauge where he's going to go. He could go in the 20s. He could slip down into the lower 30s, maybe upper 40s, depending on how he's being viewed and the needs of the team's drafting. So he's an interesting prospect. But I think we both agree he's going to contribute right away and possibly start right away as well, depending on where he goes. But I would like him more in a rotational situation where he's still getting a lot of reps, but still learning too, and still not having that kind of pressure on him until he can develop his game. But we're going to see where he goes. Our number 3 prospect, very interesting prospect here, Caleb Banks out of the University of Florida. He's a 6'6", 327-pound senior, and he is a Detroit native out of Southfield A&T. He did transfer from Louisville to Florida. He was a Senior Bowl participant this year, and he started 23 of 27 games that he played with the Gators. In 2024, he had 21 tackles, 7 for loss, 4.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles in 12 games. For his career, he has 48 tackles, 10.5 for loss, 6.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 50 hurries, 10 quarterback hits in 34 games, and he has over 600 reps at the 3 technique as a defensive tackle. Coach, I know you've known a lot about Caleb Banks playing high school ball in Detroit, etc. A lot to like about this man.
He's kind of a unicorn, Drew. That he does not have a lot of. He's not prolific as far as his reps in college, even though he's played at 2 different places. And injuries have played a factor in that. But, we're talking about 600-plus reps as a 3 technique. 6'6", 327. I mean, he is a big NFL offensive tackle playing on the opposite side of the line. Like right there, this pictured clip against Georgia here, you can see how big he is out there as an interior presence. This is a guy that he's being coveted, folks, for his ability to rush the passer from the inside. He can create problems. This is the type of a guy that helps stop a Jared Goff. He makes it tough for him to see inside because he has an immense frame. I mean, he has a fantastic, look at him coiled up right there in 4-point stance. I mean, that is a big, big kid right there. And he tore it up in the one-on-one drills. So he's tucked up. He's technically strong. So he's built to spill, Drew. He's somebody that possesses the ability to really be a playmaker. High-level hand fighter, which that speaks to his pass rush capability. He uses them very well to gain his leverage and to gain, onto the quarterback, to gain his gap, to gain onto the hip of his primary blocker. So he really does know how to use his hands. He's got good burst for a 6'6", 325-plus pound player. He gets that natural depth with his extension through into the line just because he's 6'6", and his gain, really does help penetrate the line of scrimmage, which gives him some really good tools to work with as a run defender as well. His motor runs hard. No one's going to not say Caleb Banks is not a competitor. He truly is. And he plays the game very physically. You can see that. It really showed out, especially in his Florida clips. I saw the very little I saw with the Louisville. There were some great athletic plays too. But, you can really see his motor when he played for the Gators. He's an elite bull rusher. He's going to bring that to the table day one in the upper percentiles of the league. I mean, he's a pocket destroyer. He's a demolition expert in the pocket. I mean, he makes that pocket cave. You need a Cade Mays type pass blocker dealing with a guy like this. You rookie Tate Ratledge and those kinds of things, they don't want to play a veteran Caleb Banks early in their career because they're going to make it miserable for them. He's alignment versatile, with an offensive tackle's body. He can move it around, help a little bit with that 5 technique in the perimeter. But, I mean, he can go, right down into be a nose guard for you as well. So Caleb Banks is that NFL body kind of elite physical prospect, Drew.
Yeah. This is one of our first of the guys I talked about in the top 20. Ironically, Caleb Banks at number 3 for us, but the talent, the physicality, the mass, all there, check the boxes. Caleb Banks is without question a day one talent, but there are significant injury concerns here with Mr. Banks. Let's talk about those, Coach.
Yeah, we got to pull up on these reins pretty doggone hard because, what happened was back Thanksgiving weekend of 2024, he had a bad foot injury. It was, I'm not sure if it was, it's really hard to find. I researched it to exactly the extent of what it was. I mean, there was ligament issues along with fractures. There was surgery involved. They have not declared it as a Liz Frank injury, but he didn't really play until November of this past season. He only played 3 games this past year. So his senior year or his last year at Florida was a very small sample size due to an injury that he received the year before. Drew, he broke his foot at the combine.
Yeah.
He's just testing and working out. So I mean, these are the type of things that happen in football all the time. Guys break it working out and training in the OTAs. They break it working out in the facility over the summer. They get hurt and break it in camp. I'm worried Caleb Banks has a chronic foot issue. And if you're at all familiar with the Detroit Lions history as of late, we have invested in this type of player. And these are things that, our GM who who has helped build this program into something of the Lions' inner core is elite. If he has a drawback, he's willing to roll the dice a little bit with these kinds of guys. And unfortunately, they can rear their ugly head. And that's a great concern. That's a great concern when you look at Caleb Banks. Do we have a guy with a bad wheel here, like a chronic bad wheel? He's too reliant on the bull rush, but I tell you what, man, like that's kind of like Rob Deere being too reliant on the home run. I mean, it did get him a 10, 12-year, 13-year major league career. He's really good at it. Could he stand to develop from his pass rush repertoire a little bit? He could. He could. He plays with real high pad level at times. He's 6'6". That leverage, those leverage angles can get a little bit high at times, which that's just going to yield to some lockouts. And that's what he needs to avoid. He's not a great tackler. He does not have a great tackle radius. It's actually pretty below average for his size, but he's a defensive lineman, Drew. That's how he plays. He does not play. He's not a defensive end a nose guard in a defensive end's body. He's got a offensive tackle's body, and he's a nose guard. So he's not a guy that's going to be a real huge statistical producer for you. He's going to play really, really well and not get a lot of stats. You're not going to depend on him to make. He's not a big high-heeled guy in numbers that way. The foot injuries are going to concern teams, Drew. They're just going to. I think that us being one of them. I would expect to see Caleb Banks slide. He is a day one talent, a fairly early day one talent, probably.
I've gone.
It's not what's going to happen though.
No. I mean, for myself, I've gone back and forth on this. Like, where would I rank Caleb Banks without the injuries? And I've often considered him as the number one defensive tackle prospect potentially. But you add in that it's not a small element. It's not like saying, well, he's got length issues. No, this is a significant issue. So yeah, he's going to slip. I don't know how far. I think it's all going to depend on the medicals coach. It's if the team doctor's saying, honestly, this is sad, but this is a business. And if you're looking at this as a GM, you're thinking, well, okay, first question, can I get 10 years out of this prospect? The answer might be no. Okay, can I get 4? Because as my draft pick, I'm going to have this player for 4 years. Can it hold up for 4? Answer could be yes, and then that changes things a little bit. Well, if I know I can at least get my rookie deal out of this prospect, this player, I'm more inclined to take a chance on it. But man, like you mentioned with the Lions, Broderick Martin definitely comes to mind. And when you're trading up and trading, 2 additional picks to move up to get a guy that has a kind of talent base or high ceiling that a Martin, or in this case a Banks, has. But man, those injury concerns, they don't go away necessarily. And unfortunately, the Lions have learned that the hard way. So as a Lions fan, I'm concerned here until day 3 maybe. But it's sad because this is a day one talent right here in Caleb Banks. And he's local too. We love that. But yeah, just stuff that's concerning. And we're going to see where he ends up, Coach. But lot to like about Caleb Banks. But it's going to be about the medicals with him, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yep. If I could just get one word in on Caleb Banks real quick. He's probably going to be drafted before day 3, I would think. I think,
Oh yeah.
3rd round latest, I think. But, speaking to your point, what can you get out of him? Well, you already aren't getting rookie minicamp out of him. So he's not available till June. So, and that's going to be a work in progress. And that's somebody you walk out and they usually will start on the real short-term pup list. So, you already have a guy you're putting on there. So, yeah, that's a concern.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. I'll get moving on to our 4th pick here. Mr. Christian Miller out of Georgia. 6'4", 321 junior. So another big defensive tackle out of the University of Georgia. Drew, we have seen Jalen Carter, big Jordan Davis. We've seen all sorts of prospects come through from this interior here. And Kristen Miller is another guy that's coming in. He's from Georgia native, from Ellenwood, Georgia, participated in the Army All-American game. So he was a big-time prospect coming out of high school. Played in 43 games and started 24 for the Bulldogs. So he's a player. He's a guy that was able to get in and fit in those talented rotations pretty early. 2025 All-SEC, earned that in the All-SEC defense. 64 career tackles, 11 and a half tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 40 hurries in 43 games. So he's definitely had an impact in the pass rush and making some plays. 600 plus reps at the 3 technique. So that's that true defensive tackle, and about 275 plus reps at like the nose, which would be the 0 and 1 technique. So again, a scheme versatile, alignment versatile defensive tackle that can give you nose and defensive tackle reps and make some plays out there, Drew.
Yeah, really like him. Like in another D tackle, it isn't necessarily wowing you statistically, but those are pretty solid statistics for his body of work and the amount of time he's played. So yeah, and you gotta like that he can go over the nose, and showing that he can, and he's got the size to do it. So that's a very good thing. We like a lot about Kristen Miller, and he's as good of a gap run anchor as there is in this draft. So that's a big plus, a feather in his cap, if you will. And he's extremely difficult in one-on-one blocking assignments, and he's a violent responder to snap. So he's got good anticipation of snap, and he's got some quickness to him. He's explosive. He's physical. He plays with great gap control. So he's a very disciplined player. He offers great alignment versatility. Coach touched on being able to go over the nose and being able to go over the 3 technique versus 0 and 1. He can do that. He condenses gaps. He can collapse the entire point of attack. So important. So if you're not going to get to the quarterback, you got to be able to do that, and Kristen Miller can. He's got a heavy, violent, nasty football punch. Talked about those hands. He's got it. He brings very good pad level and discipline. He's a great leverage player. So not only is he strong, but he's a very disciplined player. As a coach, when you look at a Kristen Miller on tape or in his workouts, you see a very disciplined football player.
High caliber run defender. Very high caliber run defender. NFL ready run defender. He's going to come in and rotate in and defend the run very, very well and be a significant repetition player and rotations on a defensive line. De facto starter, perhaps as a rookie. He challenges Caden McDonald with his run anchor, in this draft. It's a better run anchor than Caleb Banks, and he can challenge that of Peter Woods himself just on anchor alone. It's what he doesn't bring that Kristen Miller has to show a semblance of, or he's going to just get that run pluggers mentality and be that guy that bounces around after year 4 in this league and play for 3-4 teams in 3-4 years. Those are the concerns. Does Kristen Miller bring any pop at all in regards to the pass rush? Does he bring any pop at all in regards to being a scheme stunter or a blitzer? Or is he just truly a condense and plug gap defender? That's the question that Kristen Miller's got to answer.
Yeah, and that's it. Again, bringing it as a productive pass. He doesn't have a productive past as a pass rusher. So, does he have elements to that game? Yeah, he does, but he hasn't really been able to display it in the scheme, or just hasn't shown it yet. And it's up to the DCs and the head coaches to figure out, hey, does he have that in his game? That's what you're talking about. He can get over aggressive and can over penetrate or over pursue as a result. So as disciplined as he is, he's got to be able to harness the aggression. He's not bad at it, but he's got to get better at it. He's not a very wide tackle radius, and Coach talked about that and previously with some of the other prospects. So that's not his game necessarily. It's not necessarily a D tackle's game per se, So, but at the same time, that is a concern. He does offer more in linebacker protection or gap control rather than playmaking and pass rush. So, at the same time, again, that's what coach is saying. Is that what he's going to be limited to in the league, or is he going to be more of a gap destroyer and become a better pass rusher? We're going to see. And is he just destined for that nose tackle spot, that plugger? Can he ever offer enough to play on pass downs? There's a ton of potential that says he could, coach. And then but as you pointed out, there's no definitive data that's saying, oh yeah, we can definitely picture Kristen Miller being that having a better pass rush element to his game, but not necessarily. That's probably the concern.
Yeah, that's what he has to kind of show, because he didn't. It was very low volume at Georgia in regards to what he brought to the table with that, and that's going to be the work in progress, and he's going to get some honeymoon time here to kind of show that. Depending on where he goes, that defensive line coach is going to be really very crucial to Kristen Miller, because for his long-term success, because he has to develop more of a repertoire, or they're just going to throw him inside or get him off the field on passing downs. And Dave, this is a passing league. So you're going to want to be able to play those downs, Kristen, so you got to get a little bit better at pass rush.
Yeah, now I think he's a very safe day 2 pick. I really do. I think he's safe. I think he's just it's not as high of a ceiling here, but probably a higher floor. Certainly, we just talked about a Caleb Banks who has a very high ceiling, but oh boy, it's high risk with those injuries. So the safer pick, without questions, is Kristen Miller. But pretty safe to say as well that you're not going to get quite as much out of Miller as you would Banks, all things being equal. But Kristen Miller's a nice football player. Number 5, at our number 5 spot, coach, we got Lee Hunter, the D tackle out of Texas Tech. He's 6'4", 330 pounds. He's a senior. He was a 4-star product out of Mobile, Alabama, and he transferred from Auburn to Central Florida and then ultimately to Texas Tech. He had one redshirt season at Auburn. He's a 3-time All-Big 12 player, 2 of those at Central Florida and the last one at Texas Tech. So he's been bringing it in multiple locations for a few years now. At Central Florida, he had 131 tackles, 21 and a half for loss, 5 sacks and over 40 hurries, over 15 quarterback hits in 38 games with the Golden Knights. In 2025, last year, he was an All-American at Texas Tech. For his career, 172 tackles, 32 for loss, 7.5 sacks, over 60 hurries, and over 20 quarterback hits in 52 games. He started 37 of his 52 games, coach. Lee Hunter's got a lot to offer, and he's at 6'4", 330. He's a big man.
What you notice with Lee Hunter a little bit in regards to some of these, career highlights in his background and accomplishments, he's got he's got some volume plays. He's made a few more plays than some of the other guys that we've talked about. He's been a big-time disruptor in the backfield, and he's got a very high volume when it comes to making tackles and tackles for loss. So pretty impressive guy here. Big-bodied defensive tackle, 6'4", 330. And he's got a big body of work. He's a seasoned veteran. He's played in 52 college football games. So this is a guy that brings a lot of seasoning to the NFL level. He has the frame. Very strong gap run anchor. Big, wide-bodied guy. You can just see the frame right there. And he's protecting Jacob Gonzalez right there, the fine interior linebacker or inside linebacker for the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. And you can see why this team was a playoff team this past year. I mean, you have guys like this, David Bailey on the outside. We've talked about a lot of Texas Tech Red Raiders, and Lee Hunter is impressive. Brings just a tremendous body to the game. Heavy physical football puncher. That was kind of a thing that that was a box that was checked by all of these guys. You got to play with great punch to play defensive line, but he brings it. So, what really sets aside Lee Hunter, really aside from everybody not named Peter Woods, is his tackle radius. He can really extend and chase things down. He's really explosive, and that puts himself in a really good position to make a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage and chase things down. And he's another guy that can really crush the pocket and collapse onto quarterbacks. So he's a very effective bull rush pass rusher. Plays with great pad level and great leverage. Has great pad level discipline. So he's staying flat back and bending at those hips and knees, and staying low. That's something that you see at the higher levels of football, especially towards games where they become wars and you're late into the third and fourth quarters. You got a couple of lines, standing straight up. The game slows down. The better games are played by better players that have great pad level. Lee Hunter possesses that. Major space eater, major block occupier, Drew. He can really, and he can make plays. Lee Hunter is a guy that could be a very sneaky prospect when it comes to that draft board.
Yeah, he's I talked about a safer pick, with Miller. Lee Hunter is a very, very, very safe pick. I think he's going to be a very, very solid prospect, and he's got a ceiling that I think could make him a Pro Bowl caliber player. I really, really like in that picture shows that tackle radius, his length. He's got it. He's got a lot of potential there, Coach. There are some things he needs to work on, though, right?
It's translation issues. There's translation concerns because of his athleticism. He does not compete. He is not as fluid as Peter Woods. He's not as fluid as Caden McDonald. I'm sorry. He does not move like that. He's stiffer. So when is the road going to end for Lee Hunter and his arc of potential? Has he met his match athletically? That's going to be a concern right out of the gates. If he is, it's going to temper things a little bit. He can be a little mechanical despite the play range that he plays with and these plays that he's made. So that's the concern. Is he going to be able to do that? Because what you can do to a back, at Kansas State is not what you can do to Jahmyr Gibbs. So, can you chase him down that easily and those kinds of things? Those are the concerns. Because he lacks some of that quickness and speed. It shows up more in his testing. He does not offer a lot of closing pursuit. He's not a guy that's going to clean things up from the back end and make plays from that way. He's got to be a pad level warrior. That's got to be his calling card, is that he stays underneath pads, and that's how he makes plays. He makes the plays that are run right at him, as his tackle radius probably does condense and shrink a little bit. He's got to develop a pass rush plan too, and not just be a bull rusher. He does it really, really well. He's not quite the Caleb Banks' capability, because Banks has got a little bit more length, and I think and more quickness. But he is a great bull rusher, but he's got to be more than that. He's got to be able to counter a little more than that. Brings a lot of effort, not a lot of dynamics. So, I just think in the end, do we have a guy that's going to have some translation issues? Is his performance going to temper down? We see that with a lot of major college football heroes, just not quite be able to translate to the NFL. He's kind of a role-specific prospect. This is a guy that a team's got to have a vision for and help him make it.
Yeah, and it's going to be true pretty much for, in my view, all of the prospects we mentioned from Hunter on down in the top 20. We're going to talk about some dark horse candidates here shortly, but yeah, I mean, they all bring some variables to their game that are outstanding, but there's questions or concerns, and it's mostly around, are they, like to your point, are they going to stall out and be just that one trick guy, just the bull rusher, or the gap plugger? That changes the dynamic with this position, because it is more difficult to grade because you don't have the flashy statistics all the time. I mean, if you have a D tackle with flashy statistics, you've got a great one there, but it's difficult. You got to really study the film. You're not going to see a 60-yard touchdown catch running down the field with a big old smile. That's easy to see. It's not easy to focus in on the line of scrimmage, and this as a coach, but as fans, if you really want to understand how they're playing, you got to really focus your attention on that player in that play and really understand what they're doing. Because if you just look at it from the 10,000-foot view with 22 guys on the field, you're going to miss a lot of the nuances that happen in the trenches. But Lee Hunter does a lot of good things. So excited to see where he ends up. Let's talk about our dark horses, coach, and you're going to start us out now with a real interesting one.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the Godfather to start things out. Cincinnati native and University of Cincinnati Bearcat defensive tackle Dante Corleone, nicknamed the Godfather. I wonder where they would have got that from.
No idea.
Maybe it has something a little bit to do with that last name. I'm just guessing here.
The first doesn't hurt either.
6 foot, 340 pound senior. So this is a fire hydrant built guy here. 44 games played, 33 starts. He was a freshman All-American for the Bearcats. His name has been talked about for years in regards to the NFL draft. He's a 2-time All-American, 2022 and 2024, not in 2025, but he's a 2-time, that's not including freshman All-American. He was a 2-time All-American at the University of Cincinnati, 3-time All-Big 12 player, and was a 2022 All-AAC player before Cincinnati went to the Big 12. 123 tackles in his career, 17 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 50-plus hurries in 44 games. So this is a guy that was an absolute menace from the interior, absolute menace. He has over 1,100 reps as a nose tackle and about 150-plus reps or so at defensive tackle. This is a nose tackle, Drew. That is what he is going to bring, and he is a very role-specific player when drafted. I know we talked about Kristen Miller having as good of a run anchor as anybody in this draft. Well, Kristen Miller, meet Dante Corleone. Kristen Miller possesses a little bit more alignment versatility than Dante Corleone, so that's where he gets that nod. But I tell you what, Dante Corleone is an interior run presence because he's built like a fire hydrant with a Mack truck power. I mean, he is not a guy that just is stationary. He can move that body. He's got tremendous burst for a 340-pound individual. Great technician. He's a very tooled and skilled football player. Outstanding effort. He plays with a good tackle radius for a guy that is kind of diminutive in stature in regards to interior defensive players. He is obviously a very big man, but not the tallest, 6 foot flat. So Dante Corleone just been an absolute, hero of a defensive playmaker on the inside for the Cincinnati Bearcats. Has had some serious health checks here too. He's fought through it, had an amazing career, in 44 games played. But he's had blood clots. He's had a knee injury in 2022. He had an ankle injury this past season that sidelined him a little bit. And he's just going to have difficulty with the length of the interior. Anyone that has big, long linemen, Dante Corleone is going to be locked up with it at times. It's just going to happen. He does not offer a lot in length. He can be a little bit erratic with his pad level. His weight has been a concern. There have been times he has gotten himself up into the 360s, and they've had to bring him down, quite a bit. And when you're asking an athlete to lose 20, 25 pounds, to ask anyone to lose 20, 25 pounds, if anyone has ever had to lose 20 or 25 pounds, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do.
No.
So, the weight along with the health issues are pressing concerns for the longevity of Dante Corleone and where he gets drafted. Because you're drafting a nose guard, Drew. I don't think you draft just a nose guard in the first round or in the second round even. And if you do, you have a very rich roster. I think you start entertaining Dante Corleone in the third. I like him more as a 4th round draft pick, potentially even the 5th, no later than the 5th round, I think, just because of his alignment specificity and not being a guy that can, move along the defensive line as much, as well as the weight and health concerns too.
I think you're spot on with where he's going to grade, where he likely falls in the draft. I think that's spot on. If I'm a GM in the league, Brad Holmes specifically, I'm just asking the question: can I get the 4 years I definitely need out of this player? Depending on the medicals, as long as the medicals are good, yeah, I would take that chance. Anything beyond year 4, though, I think that's a big question mark and I am concerned about his height because, and you say, well, what about Aaron Donald? Yeah, what about Aaron Donald? I mean, we're not talking about Aaron Donald here. That's a total different football player. You're 6 foot, but I do think about Jerry Ball, and that
very similar player.
That's who comes to mind, and that's where I get intrigued because, like, that does one thing, but does it real well, and is as short, just fire hydrant. You mentioned it, absolute fire hydrant. But boy, he could play. He's an interesting guy. Dante Corleone, the Godfather. I love that. He's gonna be fun to watch. I'm curious to see where he ends up. Could be in Detroit. You never know. Let's talk about your second pick, Coach.
Well, it's our second local. We talked about Big Caleb Banks out of Southfield. We've got another Detroiter here, but a true local because he was a Wolverine as well. Rayshawn Benny, defensive lineman out of Michigan, 6'3", 298-pound senior. He was a guy that I got to see quite a bit because he used to work out and go to workouts alongside one David Scheel at the Rising Stars summer training program out in Southfield and Bloomfield Hills when he was playing for Coach Carter at Oak Park. And he was a prospect. And he was a guy that really stood out with great frame and size back then. And to watch Rayshawn Benny develop into what he was at Michigan was really fun to see. Like we said, he's a 4-star guy out of Detroit. So he was a coveted player out of Oak Park High School. Played in 54 games for the Wolverines. So this is a very prolific guy playing on the defensive line for the Wolverines. 2023 national champ. He was a member of that team and played quite a bit. Was all Big Ten this past season. 2025 all Big Ten player. So nice capstone to his career that way. 107 tackles for a career, 12 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 6 pass deflections, 40 hurries, and 8 quarterback hits in 54 games. 700 plus reps as a 3 technique, and he moved outside a little bit, sort of like Peter Woods, for 100 plus reps. More over the tackle and onto the outside eye of the tackle. So a true defensive tackle here, does have a little bit of alignment versatility to him and potentially some scheme versatility as well. Great anchor that eats blocks. That's what he does well. He plays that part of the game, which, oftentimes, and defensive linemen can be viewed a bunch of different ways, Drew. They're very valuable. But one of which is they can be great pawns on the chessboard. They can really help you execute your defense by eliminating the opposition's interior, and that's their front line, and that's what Rayshawn Benny does. He is not going to be the juiciest statistical guy. He is going to eat and destroy blocks. He's a great block recognition guy and line controller. That's what he can do. Supreme effort. He is a cleanup player. He is a person that brings a little radius to the game, even though he may not be the most prolific playmaker. He's a good functional athlete. He brings some functional athleticism to his game, and he's impressive as a pocket collapser. He's got some bull rush techniques. So and some 6'3", 290-pound, 300-pound kid. He's got some leverage to boot with it. Broke his foot in 2024, broke his leg in 2024, fibula. Now he's recovered from that and had a fine 2025. He was all Big Ten, so he seems to have recovered. However, he does have a red flag when it comes to injuries. He does get over aggressive and lose his technique at times, and that's why asking Rayshawn Benny to be much more than a stalwart steward of the defensive line and a line controller, that's when he is going to be at his best. Doesn't do much outside of the bull rush. Doesn't bring a lot to the table that way. But boy, does he, he eats up space and gap plugs with the best of them, Drew, and protects backers. He's got to add some other elements, to stick in the NFL real long time. He reminds me of a prospect that I coached, Latirius Walton, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Buffalo Bills out of CMU in Clintondale High School. And he's very, very similar to that. LT was a little bigger. LT was 6'5", and probably 310. So Rayshawn Benny is very, very similar to that. Brings a lot to the same things to the table. His floor is high. His floor is high is because he's going to be able to control line, protect linebackers, and make it difficult against the run. What more can he bring to the table? If he can add elements to the pass rush or into executing defenses or show great scheme and alignment versatility, then there you go.
Yeah,
I think Rayshawn, I'd be shocked to hear his name day 3 or day 2. I'm sorry, day 2. I'd be shocked. I think he is a guy that does go day 3, but is a 53-man roster player.
You could get a lot of value taking Rayshawn Benny on day 3. There's no doubt about it. The injury, while there, I'm far less concerned about it versus Banks with the foot or anyone with a knee or an ankle going on. A broken fibula or broken bone in general, as long as it heals properly, it should be good to go, if not stronger than it was before at the break point. So I feel better about that. But it's just his ceiling's not quite as high as some of the other guys we talked about. But boy, I tell you what, he could become a very consistent and very dependable 3-down defensive tackle in this league, and that's huge value on day 3 if you can get him. So yeah, looking forward to see him and wish him the best because it's good to see a local talent make it. So he's going to be a good football player in the NFL, I think. My dark horses, Coach. First, I got Chris McNeill out of Mizzou, Missouri Tigers defensive tackle. He's 6'4", 313 pounds, a senior. Hails from North Tulsa, Oklahoma. He was an Army All-American Bowl participant out of high school, and he transferred from Florida to Mizzou. He played in 25 games with 1 start at Florida. He has 51 games played with 23 starts between Florida and Mizzou. He was an All-SEC player for Mizzou last year. Last season, he had 48 tackles, 8 for losses, 6 sacks, 2 pass defenses, 11 hurries, and 5 quarterback hits. So Mr. McClellan can get to the quarterback. For his career, he's been busy. 133 tackles, 17 for loss, 10.5 sacks, 4 pass defenses, over 35 hurries, 10-plus quarterback hits in 51 games. He's had over 1,000 reps at the 3 technique D tackle. He's had over 130 reps at the 4 and 5 techniques as a D tackle / DN, and over 100 reps at the nose, 0 technique, 1 technique. He's a very alignment versatile coach. And what we like about him, he's a seasoned, durable veteran. He's a senior, and he's played a lot of football, and he's been able to contribute in many different places along the line. He's got that alignment versatility. It's tremendous. He's another supreme technician with his hands and leverage. Gotta have it. Like to see it here. He has a very impressive tackle radius that we haven't talked about as much with everybody. So Chris McClellan has that in his toolbox. He's a vicious hand striker. He's got a heavy physical football punch. At the point of attack, Chris McClellan is a handful. Now, what does he need to work on? Well, he struggles with his pad level and plays upright a lot. So he's going to have to, that's got to be coached up in him, and he's going to have to work on that. His block destruction ability, it does not translate to the pass rush. So, again, more to work on there. He has a lot of just locked up reps. Coaches talked about that on a few occasions here. So, again, Chris McClellan's got that. That's in his on his tape, too. He's got to work on it. Is he strictly destined as a nose tackle to be a nose tackle? That's the big question. But Chris McClellan's, I picked him, Coach, because I just like his ceiling. He's got a high ceiling, but he does have that potential floor of just being that locked up nose tackle player. Your thoughts?
Oh, this is a great pick as a dark horse. I mean, I almost don't. He's basically almost not a dark horse. I mean, he really is a player that he's a day 2 football player. He's going day 2. I think he goes ahead of a couple of our other dark horses. He could go ahead of several of our ranked players here. Chris McClellan could find himself in the back end of the first round. He has to become more of a generator in the pass rush. If that's what you want out of a guy that's so alignment versatile, he's the type of player that can always be on the football field, seemingly, Drew, other than to get him a blow here or there. Chris McClellan can be a player that really, he gets a lot of reps for you. Got to develop some pass rush, though.
Yep, no question about that. But yeah, there's a lot. His ceiling's high, and that's why he's so, like you said, he's maybe not even really a dark horse, because he's got such a high ceiling. It's possible he goes late day one. It is very possible. We will see. I'm intrigued by him. And then Darrell Jackson Jr. out of Florida State, 6'6", 315-pound senior. He's from Havana, Florida. He transferred from Maryland via the U. He went to the U and after Maryland and came to Florida State. He had 13 games with one start with the Terrapins. He had 12 games and started all 12 of those for the Hurricanes. And then he went to Florida State and played in and started all 25 of his games of his career there at Florida State. So Darrell Jackson Jr. gets on the field and plays wherever he goes. For his career, 129 tackles, 12 for loss, 7.5 sacks, and 50-plus hurries in 50 games. He's had over 650 career reps at the 3 technique as a D tackle. He's also had over 200 reps at the 1 technique as a nose tackle as well. So not so much line versatile, but alignment versatile in the sense that he can go from the 0 to the 3 technique, and he's very comfortable in both. He physically can handle it. He's got a mammoth frame, man. He brings an offensive lineman's frame, much like Caleb Banks, to the defensive line. He's got a superior run ankle. That stood out to me on film, Coach. That's what I really liked about Darrell Jackson Jr.'s game. He knows how to use his levers. He plays combo blocks very well. He's a great effort and pursuit player, and he's another line controller. He causes disruptions. You have to account for him on the line. Now, where does he need to work on? Well, he's a bit too reliant on the bull rush itself, so he's got to get a little more into his bag of tricks, if you will. He's going to have to be coached up in that regard. He plays with a higher pad level at times. That can be when you're that tall, it's even more difficult to work with. So he's got to work on that. Not a lot of burst, kind of pedestrian off the snap. So he's not going to wow you off the snap necessarily. Very strong player, but doesn't have that quick little burst, twitchy burst necessarily. Now, a space-eating linebacker protector, is that what he is? Or does he need to be something else for long-term NFL success? I would say, yeah, he does need to be something else for long-term success. And that's why he's a dark horse in our board, Coach, because we're not really sure what he can do, but we see the potential there. And he's a strong football player.
6'6", 315. I mean, Ashawn Robinson, I think is somebody that comes to mind. Another high floor player because he's going to defend the run very, very well. But can he become something more? Can he become some sort of lever player that can sort of help you at the offensive tackle too, level of on the defensive alignment, and give you some scheme versatility? If he can do things like that, I don't know if he'll ever be some massive playmaker, or pass rusher, but he could be an elite run defender and line controller that is extremely scheme and alignment versatile. That's very valuable. Again, Drew, you have won the war when it comes to the dark horses. Your dark horse selections have been fantastic. I think this is their day 2 player. I do. I think the floor is too high to know that you're not getting a great run defender that's going to play in this league for a while.
Yeah, he's. I appreciate that, Coach. You make it easy for us because you do a lot of the scouting, man. You do a great job on this. But I just really like him a lot, and I try to look at it through the eyes of what as not just being analytical, but also, okay, as a Lions fan, would I be happy if Detroit got this guy? Yeah, hell yeah, I would. I mean, no question. DJ Reader's not there anymore. I like Williams and McNeill as starting. That's not the question. But who's that first guy off the sideline in the rotation? I would like Darrell Jackson Jr.
100%. I just, I mean, the way we've kind of gone about things, there's some fluidity and some flexibility into doing some different things. I think Darrell Jackson Jr. would be we've struggled in the third round. With drafting in the third round these past a couple of drafts, and we don't really have a third round pick this year.
No.
So it's almost penance for not doing well with them in the past. But I really think he goes by the third round. Darrell Jackson can go in the second round. He could. So I mean, that's the caliber player we want drafting in the third round, for sure.
Yeah, nice
because he's a third round grade that ends up becoming a starter for you.
Yeah, that's just it. I think what I like about him is I don't think he's going to hurt you. His floor's higher. At the very least, he's going to be a really good run defender and a gap player. But yeah, can he add more? Yeah, he physically absolutely could. So interesting stuff. But any final thoughts, Coach, on this group before we sign off?
Yeah, Drew, it's a position that we can't say it's not of need. Is it a position of urgent need? No, we have, I think, a few other positions ahead of it. Mm-hmm. Is it a position that we should look always to enrich and make better and make younger and make more talented? For sure. Can we do that with this draft? Absolutely. Absolutely. I just don't know when we do it in this draft. Are there levels where we could do it at every level? There are. As we talked about these players. Again, where do we prioritize it? It feels to me this could be a day 3 position, just based off of some of the players that we do have, rostered up. And it could be a position that I may be dead wrong on that. We look at the pick 17, and here comes Peter Woods if he's there. So we shall see.
It very well could happen. Yeah, it's exciting. Seeing how the Lions have addressed free agency, it's really been they've gotten some guys that are going to start, no question, but they've really focused on getting the bench built up, getting the depth built up in a lot of positions, so they're able to now target who they want to start in the draft, in the first couple rounds, and then any other targets going forward would be at that starter level more than likely. So it's kind of been Holmes' MO, the way he's built the team, and I'm not arguing with it because we've never in our fandom, and that's going back to 1980, folks. We're ancient here, but we've never had a stretch of 3 years of elite football. And back in the day, 9 and 8 would have been we would have been pretty happy with that, and that was actually status quo. Now we're folks are unhappy with it, and they should.
It is not that's not the bar anymore.
Oh, it's not the bar anymore. So we've never had that in our fandom. Yeah, there's been a season here and there, of course. We can, and we know them very well because we can count them on one hand, and that's just how it is. But this has been an unprecedented run for the Lions, certainly in our fandom, in over 40 years here. So I'm going to let Brad Holmes cook, to use a little phrase that the kids like to say. Let him cook. Let's see what happens here. But he's been very good on draft day. We've had some misses, yes, but let's see what he does. Folks, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We have all of our draft previews in a playlist for the 2026 season. You can also check out our accuracy. Go back in time, if you will. Get in that DeLorean, jump back and check out some of our previous years, see how accurate we were. Feel pretty good about it. So check us out. For Coach Andy Shield, I'm Drew. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You can also follow us on X as well as Facebook so you don't miss an episode. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.